All right, folks, get ready for a deep dive into a story that's really shaking up the world of AI. It's got all the makings of like a tech thriller. We got the David and Goliath battle, accusations of intellectual property theft, and a twist of irony that'll make you scratch your head.
Yeah, it really highlights the challenges of this uncharted territory we're in right now. AI is evolving so fast, it's hard to keep up with all the implications.
Absolutely. And the players in this drama are big names. We're talking OpenAI, the creators of ChatGPT, taking on a Chinese startup called DeepSeek. And the heart of it all is this process called AI distillation.
Right, you can think of it like creating a highly efficient pocket-sized version of a supercomputer. Like imagine taking all the knowledge and capabilities of a massive AI model like ChatGPT and then compressing it into something much smaller and faster. That's essentially AI distillation in a nutshell.
So it's about making AI more accessible, kind of like creating a greatest hits album of an artist's whole discography.
Yeah, that's a great analogy. Distillation aims to capture the essence of a larger model's capabilities, but it uses significantly fewer resources to operate. This has the potential to make powerful AI accessible to a wider range of users and developers, people who might not have the computing power or budget to work with the original large models.
Okay, I'm starting to see the appeal. But then why is OpenAI so upset?
Well, OpenAI is accusing DeepSeek of using this distillation technique to create a competing system, potentially by, leveraging OpenAI's own technology without permission. They're claiming DeepSeek may have violated their terms of service to build this rival AI.
So it's like they're saying DeepSeek took a shortcut using OpenAI's work.
Exactly, and that raises some really interesting questions about intellectual property rights in AI. It's a whole new world. How do you protect your innovation when the lines between inspiration and imitation get blurry in the digital realm?
That's a great point. And to make things even more complicated, there's a layer of irony here, right?
Absolutely, you hit the nail on the head. OpenAI, the one pointing fingers, has actually faced similar accusations themselves. Some critics are saying that OpenAI used copyrighted material to train their own models, things like books and articles, potentially without obtaining all the necessary permissions.
Oh, wow. So it's a bit of a who's copying who situation?
Exactly. It shines a spotlight on this really thorny issue of data ownership and usage in AI development. Where do we draw the line? Who gets to decide how data is used to train these powerful models? These questions are becoming increasingly critical as AI becomes more integrated into our lives.
And it's not just a theoretical debate. This is having real-world consequences, even impacting the stock market.
Yeah, for sure. NVIDIA, a major player in the chip industry that powers a lot of AI development, they saw their stock price drop by a significant 17% after news of this whole AI distillation drama broke.
Wow, 17%? That's huge. What do you think spooked the investors?
Well, I think the market reacted to the potential disruption that AI distillation could bring. I mean, if smaller, cheaper models can achieve results comparable to their larger counterparts, it could totally change the landscape of the AI industry. Just imagine a world where you don't need massive data centers and expensive hardware to run sophisticated AI applications.
That's a game changer. It makes AI more accessible to a much wider range of companies and researchers. But it also brings up another question. Is AI distillation a legitimate way to democratize access to this technology? Or is it a slippery slope toward, a wild west of intellectual property violations?
That's the million-dollar question. And it's one we're going to explore further as we dive deeper into this whole fascinating topic. We'll examine both the potential benefits and the potential risks of AI distillation, and what it could mean for the future of this rapidly evolving field.
We'll be back right after this to unpack those implications, so stick with us.
So it's important to remember AI distillation itself. I mean, it's not inherently good or bad, It's a tool, and like any tool, it can be used for a lot of things.
Yeah, that makes sense. So let's break it down. How could copying AI actually be a good thing?
Well, think about it this way. Large language models, like the ones that power ChatGPT, they're incredibly powerful, but they're also very resource intensive. They require massive data and computing power to train them, which makes them expensive and limits who can actually use them.
Yeah, not everyone has a supercomputer lying around.
Exactly, but what if you could take the knowledge of those big models and distill it down into something smaller, something more efficient? That's the potential of AI distillation. It could make AI more accessible to researchers, developers, and even everyday users who might not have all those resources.
So it's kind of like bringing the power of AI to the masses.
Exactly. Imagine if anyone with a laptop or even a smartphone could run these advanced AI applications. That's the kind of democratization that AI distillation could enable.
That's a pretty exciting thought.
Yeah.
But let's be real for a sec. There are some concerns about the ethical implications, right?
Of course. There's always a risk that technology can be misused, like if distilled models are created using data or code that was obtained illegally. Or unethically, that's a big concern.
So how do we make sure that doesn't happen? How do we balance the potential benefits with being responsible?
It's a tough one, but I think transparency is a good place to start. We need to know how these models are being created, what data is being used, what steps are being taken to prevent misuse.
Yeah, transparency is key to building trust in any field, really.
Absolutely. Open dialogue and collaboration are essential. We need everyone, researchers, developers, policymakers, ethicists, all working together to create a framework that promotes progress but does it responsibly.
It's almost like we're writing the rule book while the game is being played. AI is advancing so rapidly, it feels like we're constantly playing catch-up.
Yeah.
Just trying to ensure we're using it in a way that actually benefits humanity.
Yeah, you're right. This whole situation with OpenAI and DeepSeek is a perfect example. It's forcing us to confront these questions head on.
And these questions have implications that go way beyond just corporate competition. The development of AI has the potential to impact almost every aspect of our lives.
For sure. From healthcare and education to transportation and entertainment, AI is poised to transform industries and societies.
It's exciting, but also a little bit daunting to think about. But I think that's why it's so important to have these conversations. Now, while the field is still relatively young.
Absolutely. The decisions we make today about how we develop and use AI will have an impact for years to come. We need to be thinking about the potential benefits, but also the potential risks.
So where do we go from here? What are some actual steps we can take to ensure AI is developed and used responsibly and ethically? Let's dig into those questions in our last segment.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here talking about AI distillation. We've seen how it can potentially open up access to powerful AI, but we've also talked about those concerns about, intellectual property rights and ethical development. So where do we go from here? Well, this whole case really throws a wrench in the gears of how we usually think about innovation and ownership. We're used to dealing with physical products where it's clear who owns what. But with AI, it gets a lot more complicated. We're talking about lines of code and algorithms and data sets. It's hard to define ownership in that context.
Yeah, it's like trying to nail down a cloud. And it's not just about who profits from these models either, right?
Exactly. We need to think about things like potential biases that might be embedded in these models and the risk of misuse. And even job displacement as AI gets more and more sophisticated.
These are big, complex issues, and there are no easy answers. But ignoring it doesn't feel like the right move either.
I agree. We can't just hope for the best. This technology is evolving so fast. We need to shape its development in a way that benefits everyone.
Okay, so how do we actually do that? Where do we even begin to tackle these challenges?
Well, one crucial step is to get everyone talking and working together. Researchers, developers, policymakers, ethicists, the general public. We all need to be part of creating a framework for responsible AI development.
So it takes a village to raise this AI child.
It really does. And that village needs some rules. We need to define what ethical data use in AI development actually means. We need to find ways to make sure everything is transparent, like how these models are trained and used. And we need to address the potential impacts, the social and economic ones, of AI becoming so widespread.
That's a lot to tackle. Are there any concrete examples of how we could actually approach this?
Sure. One idea that's been suggested is to create industry-wide standards for ethical AI development, kind of like best practices that everyone agrees to follow. They'd outline principles for things like data privacy, bias mitigation, and transparency.
That sounds like a decent starting point, but how would we actually enforce these standards?
Well, that's where it gets trickier. It'll probably take a combination of government regulations, industry self-regulation, and public pressure to hold companies accountable for how they're developing and using AI.
So it's a multi-pronged approach. It sounds like we have a lot of work to do.
We do, but I think this case with OpenAI and DeepSeek, as messy as it is, has been a wake-up call. It's brought these issues to light, and it's forcing us to start dealing with them.
Well, I hope you're right. And I think it's important for everyone to stay informed and engaged with this. The future of AI is being shaped right now, and we all have a role to play in making sure it's a future that benefits humanity.
Couldn't agree more. The decisions we make today will have a huge impact on the world of tomorrow.
Well said. And on that note, we want to hear from you, our listeners. What are your thoughts on this whole AI distillation debate? What are your concerns about the future of AI? Head over to our social media pages and let's continue this conversation.
And as always, this isn't financial advice. Make sure you do your own research and make informed decisions.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of AI. We'll be back next week with another fascinating topic. Until then, stay curious.